Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you, and yes, we're going to educate you today. I'll tell you what, I'm excited for today's guest. This guy, this brother, this gentleman is amazing, has a dear part of my heart, and actually, he was one of my coaches when I first started speaking 5 years ago, and I'm not ashamed to say it because I wouldn't be where I'm at without this gentleman. I want to welcome back one of the only few, actually the second person that's ever come back twice to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, a dear friend of mine, the one and only Sean Douglas. What's up, bro? Come on.
What's up, brother?
I'm pumped up, dude. I'm pumped up. I missed you, man. It's just good to see you. I know the beautiful person you are, Sean. Who is Sean Douglas? Introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, please.
Yeah, man. Dude, I'm so pumped. Thanks for having me, man. I'm just retired from the military, December 1st, 2021. So I'm about a year out of my retirement. So it's been a crazy year, but spent 20 years and 4 days in the Air Force, retired, but I built 4 businesses while serving in the military, sold 2, started a radio show, a live online radio show in 2017, sold that in 2021, and then started 2 more podcasts, and I'm about to host my 3rd starting this year. So been a TEDx speaker, about to deliver my 3rd TEDx talk here in March. And then I don't know, we basically create, launch, and monetize like podcast, books, speaking businesses, stuff like that. And that's basically been my business since 2018. Been speaking all over the country, met you, and then went over to an event together, and just have watched you flourish, man. So I'm super pumped for you.
Yeah, man. Well, you've always had a special place in my heart, and we had a chance to kind of just catch up and talk around Thanksgiving time, and it was a good conversation. And I said, you know what, man, we need to get you back on my show and just kind of just catch up and talk, because I think so many times in life and business in the world that we in, so many times we forget where we come from, or we forget sometimes the people that help us. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, with confidence that I wouldn't be where I'm at without Sean Douglas being a part of me. My first, not even a year, my first 6 months of business, because I don't want to say I was drowning, but I was there on the floaty.
Yeah, right. Treading water.
Yeah, man. And it's just a beautiful thing when you celebrate each other. And there's so many things that I just wasn't even aware of when we first met, Sean. But you're right, man. So let me ask you this: in business, when you're thinking about starting something, what's one of the biggest mistakes you think people do? Because what I mean by that is, you have ideas, you kind of put them out there, and then A, nothing happens, or B, they're out of business within the first year. Over 50% of them go out of business the first year. Why do you think that happens, man? Because you've been successful in business. You sold your podcast, live transformational radio. You sold that for a profit.
Oh,
So
yeah.
talk to us. What's 1 or 2 reasons you think that people just never get over that little hump?
Branding. They put so much time and effort on brand. We're so over rotated on branding. Everybody has to be a brand, so most people have an idea of what they want to do. They have a program, product, service, something that they want to do. And so they spend so much time on the logo and the colors and maybe like an offering. And then they build their product suite or whatever, and they build their company, and then they stop. So there's a magic triangle. You have product, you have your company. So you have your product, program, service, whatever you're going to do, your offering. Then you have your company. People build their company, and then they build that product, but they don't build the category. And categories make the brands. So if I gave you a category, you could name a company, like the first company that comes to mind. So let's say the restaurant business, right? So when you think of restaurants, it's a pretty broad category. But then inside there, you have fast food restaurants. So name a fast food restaurant.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, okay. That's the first one that comes to mind. Usually people will be like, well, McDonald's. Well, they're the biggest, but Chick-fil-A stands out with those ones, and especially from Texas. People love Chick-fil-A in Texas.
I love me some chicken.
Right? If I said like in business, if I said CRM, what would be the company that comes to mind?
Oh, easy. Salesforce.
Salesforce. They're the category king. If I said cell phone companies, who comes to mind?
AT&T or T-Mobile.
T-Mobile. T-Mobile's like number 2 because they bought out Sprint. Verizon's number 1, but T-Mobile has a lot of great veteran programs and stuff like that. If I said, who is the discount retailer?
Ross.
Ross or Walmart?
I don't know why that came to mind, but Ross.
Ross or Walmart. People are like, what about TJ Maxx? TJ Maxx is shutting down stores. It's either Ross or Walmart, discount retailers. So we all know the brands inside the category, but why? Why do we know that specific brand? Why is that brand dominating that market category? It's usually because they weren't the first to market. They were the first one to frame a problem and solve it and then market the problem.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, ladies and
So
gentlemen, before Tom goes on, ladies and gentlemen, get out your pen, get out your paper, and you want to definitely take some notes. You know how we say it here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. When you write down the notes you take here during the show, you're over 50% likely to remember them and apply them and use them in your life. So take notes because Sean's about to drop some massive, massive value right now, and I don't want you to miss it. And then not only that, I want you to come back in a day or two and study your notes. And next week, because when you study it, when you repetitious it, guess what? You're going to retain it, and that's where I want you to grow. So, Sean, you just dropped a gem right there, man. That was boom, baby, right? Like, so many people forget to solve the problem within their service or product, what they do. Mm-hmm. Say that again, what you just said.
Yeah, so the category kings frame the problem and then solve it by marketing that problem. You and I both know, being in business and being on social media, especially speakers, what you see on social media all the time is, buy my stuff. Oh my gosh, my stuff is so amazing. This stuff is so amazing. Buy my stuff. Or you'll get DMs. I get DMs all the time. You got a podcast. I am podcast promoter. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I don't need that. Hey, I sucked at life, but then I found the unlock. Now buy my stuff. And like years ago, it was all webinars, right? Like, come join this webinar and I'll tell you the 5 things you need to do to make $1 million this year. And then you go through this 45-minute webinar about how their life sucked. And then it's awesome now because of this one unlock. And if you buy my program for 10 grand, I'll show you how to make $1 million. Like, you spent 45 minutes in a webinar to learn nothing. The real category kings dominate their market category, not someone else's market category. Nike is not getting into the energy drinks. Yeah. Nike is athletic wear and they are dominating the category. Why? Because they framed the problem that they solve and then marketed the problem that they solve, not the other way around. Most people have a problem that they solve and then market their solution. And when you market your solution, you're really not serving the people that you're supposed to be serving. If I emailed you and said, Daniel, listen, I've got this amazing product. It's gonna solve everything. And you should absolutely buy it because everybody has too many appliances on their counter and I have a solution. You're like, I don't really have appliances on my counter. So I don't need that. Or if I said, hey man, do you feel like your home is cluttered, whether it be in the kitchen during parties and you're trying to find space to make dinner, or in your closet or somewhere in the house, man, your office is cluttered. There's stuff everywhere. and you just don't know how to organize the things that you absolutely need. Well, we have an organizational program, and we come in and we reorganize and we restructure and we create a flow into your home so that you don't have a lot of stuff just laying around.
I
Like,
love that.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of saying,
I love what you're saying, because you're bringing up the problem, and that's not that you're, how can I say this, right? It's not, you're not doing it in a bad way, you're doing it in a good way, because most people know they have things they need to fix.
mm-hmm,
They just avoid them and look the other way, or they avoid them and they tolerate them.
mm-hmm.
And what you tolerate, you're never going to change. I always say that, but I love your approach, because you're helping them come to the realization, like, there needs to be a change here, right? You need to solve this problem. If not, it's not going to change.
Yep, absolutely. So me and my team and some of my inner circle, we call ourselves category designers. We create and dominate market categories that we create. Why do I want to go play in Daniel Gomez's sandbox and Daniel Gomez charges me to play in his sandbox when I could just create my own sandbox and charge people to play in mine? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're both speakers, but we're not in competition with each other. Other people become speakers and they're like, well, I need to do this. And I look at this guy over here and oh, this guy's speaking over here. I need to go do that. And they start following people just to see what they're doing so that they can copy what they're already doing.
Yes.
Just like, I'm not a motivational speaker. I speak in a motivational style, but I am not a motivational speaker. I am a master resilience implementer and a business positioning strategist. Tony Robbins 5 years ago was a motivational speaker. He's not now. He's a master life strategist. He created his own market of speaker. If you said, well, I'm a podcaster, you remember Life Transformation Radio. I wasn't a podcaster. We were at the summit together. I'm not a podcaster. I was like, I got this podcast. So what do you do? Like, I'm not a podcaster. I'm a live online radio host, and the show is repurposed into a podcast. They're like, oh, that's super cool. And people, you see the reaction. People are like, oh, wow. Oh, that's super cool. Well, how's it live? And StreamYard? No, like online radio, like not like StreamYard to Facebook or Twitch to YouTube, like a for real online radio station that is broadcast in X amount of countries. And we did 476 episodes, and it was a live online radio. Now, after I sold that, I then started 2 podcasts, and I'm about to host my 3rd. So yes, that is a podcast, and I didn't really rebrand or redefine the market category, but now I say, yeah, I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast.
Well, I love what you're saying, because I think too, as I see this in you and for myself, as I've grown, it's like the speaking brand of Daniel Gomez Inspires, right? My DG that I have behind me, that was my brand for speaking, Daniel Gomez Inspires. Mm-hmm. And I think for the longest times, I've talked about this before, I fought being a coach, right? I didn't want to be a coach. And all of a sudden,
right,
you write a book and people start asking you for advice on a book. And then I remember one day God says, just help people out. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing, right? Like, because that wasn't my intention to be a coach. I mean, as dumb as it sounds, I'm being totally honest, ladies and gentlemen, that wasn't my intention. And then God started saying, why do you think you ran dealerships and you understand business? How else, right? How else was I going to come out? No experience besides hanging out with Sean and the training that I got from music coaching. The first year we made over 6 figures just in speaking alone. That was God, and that was the wisdom that I had already inside of me. But that was the platform for the next brand, Shield of Faith Coaching. But I didn't know that it was going to come out. So I think you're right, because so many people focus on, you do want to have a sense of what you're going to do, right? But I think as you continue to grow, your brand evolves. And for me, it branched off, right? Because the trunk of my business is speaking. A branch was Shield of Faith Coaching, the first branch real. Now, by God's grace, I won top 14 business coach here in San Antonio in South Texas. But then book publishing came out with DG Enterprises Publishing. Then podcast launching came out. Now, our last brand, Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, that just really took off on its own. Yep. And we trademarked these, but I had no idea when I started that all these different branches were going to come out. Talk to us about that. What do you, because I feel like that's kind of what you're saying, because we focus so much on this and we don't do anything then because we're lost, right? We're stagnant, we have inaction. And when you have that idea and you don't do anything, it goes by the wayside, even though you have pretty colors. And when you said that, you know what I thought about? I know when I was in Clubhouse, a lot of people would just say, well, your business is not right because your Instagram is not pretty and purple and it's mixy. And I'm like, if your business is based strictly on Instagram, you don't have a business. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Nope, you don't have a business. I'm sorry, you don't have a business. Sorry. You have a
But
hobby.
you'd be surprised how many branding coaches, and I understand branding is important, but how many people, I probably at least 30 or 40 that I remember being in these Clubhouse rooms that said, well, your colors ain't good and people ain't gonna like your Instagram. And I'm like, if that's how shallow your business is,
right?
believe me, you don't have a business.
Right. So branding is two things. Branding is your logo, and people get so wrapped around the axles about, well, blue means this, and if you put greens in, it means this, but if you put reds in, it means that. Like, colors mean things. I get it. I could care less. However, my logo for the Success Core is blue and gold, like the Air Force colors, blue, gold, and white. Those are the Air Force flag colors. So of course I use those because I know exactly what those colors represent. That's why those colors were in there. It means something to me. I could care less what it means to something else, because in the end, people buy their way out of problems. They don't buy solutions. You and I both launch podcasts for people, right? If someone says, yeah, I'm thinking about, I don't know, I want to put my message out there, but not really sure how. You and I both go, well, you could speak, or you could be on social media, or you can have a podcast. Like, oh man, yeah, you need a podcast. Yeah, absolutely. You need a podcast. I'm going to help. You need to get messed up. Maybe they don't want to do that. I think everybody needs a podcast. 100% across the board. Everybody needs a podcast. I just don't think everyone should. Like, I just don't think everyone should.
Yes.
Most podcasts pod fade after 13 episodes. Like, I'm not making any money. I don't have $1 million. You said I would get my message out. You did get your message out. It's on the podcast. I did 476 episodes and I sold my radio show for 5 figures. I don't know too many people that have sold a radio show or a podcast. And then I went on to start 2 more, monetize those, kind of pretty healthy income, I guess. But I'm not super like, oh my gosh, like this thing has to make a ton of money. Like, that's not why I do it. Money is the byproduct of the value that you deliver. Period. The end. Money is the money is the byproduct of the value that you deliver.
And you know what? I want to speak to that because listen to this. Maybe you're listening to me and Sean, and we're having a great conversation here because we're both speakers. We both have podcasts. But it doesn't matter if you're a podcaster. It doesn't matter if you have a bakery. It doesn't matter if you have a mechanic shop. It doesn't matter what you do out there. Maybe you have a hair salon. Maybe you're a barber. The marketplace is going to reward you according to the value you deliver to it.
Mm-hmm.
How much value, like Sean just said, period, are you delivering to the marketplace? The more value you deliver, then the higher the return, right? If you want to become a millionaire, like if you honestly want to become a millionaire, what I teach you is how you're going to deliver that $1 million value. If you want to become an entrepreneur to hit your first 6 figures, okay. If you never hit 100,000, which is the goal for many young entrepreneurs, how are you going to hit that first 100,000 is you got to create value of $100,000. And it's kind of that simple, but people don't realize that. You mean I can't just, you know what I think screwed it up, to be honest with you, is I think back of the days when I came out, right, you were out before I was, but actually this year here in 2 weeks is my 5-year anniversary. Like, I see what God's done in 5 years, like, wow.
Right.
But I remember when I started, Sean, like there was some dumb stuff on YouTube, right? And everybody said, well, let me be stupid and I'll be the next Guy's Gone Wild or Girls Gone Wild and I'll make
Mr.
$1 million.
Beast.
Yeah. And it doesn't work that way. Like, right, that's kind of like isolated situation, and those days are over. You got to deliver value. I love the way you said that.
Yeah. And so branding is your logos and your colors or whatever, which everybody talks about. You got to have a brand. What's your brand? And then the second part of that branding is your reputation, how the marketplace sees you. So what we do specifically, what I do specific, it doesn't matter if it's a podcast, it's a business. I've launched 4 businesses on my own. I've helped other people launch their businesses. I coached you. This is the whole deal. Positioning is everything. Positioning is how the marketplace receives and perceives the value that you deliver. Most businesses fail because they don't create a category. They launch their product, they launch their company, and they stop. They don't position themselves. Marketers ruin everything. Let's just put that out there. Marketers ruin everything. And so positioning is what we do. We're a positioning agency. The Success Core is a positioning agency. So if you want to monetize your podcast, totally got it. Cool. We stopped kind of like doing the book thing. Like we were doing, we launched like 13 bestsellers, but we're like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And my team was getting bogged down. We have 3 or 4 books at a time. We're like, man, we're just getting killed. And so we kind of, we still will, but it's not something that we advertise anymore. So we basically work with speakers and we work with podcasters or people who want to start a show. We've been doing that since 2018, 2019, launching podcasts, launching books since 2018, 2019 was really when we started that. But I've always worked with speakers to get booked to speak, always worked with those guys to get TEDx talks. So that's pretty much our primary business. It's always been our primary business, is to get speakers booked on a TEDx talk. And like I said, I'll be delivering my 3rd in March. I've got all kinds of people that I'm talking to right now that like, this is their time. Like, oh my God, we're out of pandemic. I got to deliver that. Like I've been trying to do this thing like forever, but how am I going to position them? How am I going to, I'm not just going to go, hey, this guy's an awesome speaker. He should be on your TEDx show or TEDx stage. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm going to position them correctly and, everything else. So what people don't do is launch their category. So, you could be an author or you could be a best-selling author that positions you as an expert. Yes. You could be a speaker or you could be a business speaker or you could be like a resilient speaker. You could be a leadership speaker. Like they call it a niche or whatever. You don't hear that word a lot anymore.
Yeah.
Like a couple years ago, got to niche down. Oh, you gotta have a niche. You gotta niche down. You can't just speak to everybody. You gotta niche down. You could create your own category.
Yeah. Well, when you say that, I think that's what helped me survive the pandemic. I think
we thrived. Holy crap, we thrived.
Because not you, but many people said, well, Daniel, you're just speaking, like you gotta niche down. And I'm like, niche down what? And when I really prayed about it, God says, no, don't niche down. Like you don't. And I say that because when everybody else was right, we'll just say you have a special niche and you niche down in 2020, March 15th, 16th, we know the world closed down. But the thing that for me was that I never really niched down. I just went against it because that's what God put in my heart. Yep. I was right. Think about this. The person that, would you say the person that was that corporate trainer, leadership speaker, he lost his business, his speaking business, just say he lost whatever gigs he had. Yep. Well, guess what? He was out of it. The beautiful thing about me is that when I closed down and when the world closed down, it's like, well, okay, well, this business is closed down, but if a high school opportunity opened up, well, shit, I can speak at a high school, or a college where I can speak at a college, right? I can reformat my speech to accommodate them. And then, well, sales training, I can speak on sales. So what helped me get through to really blossom, and then Sticker Shock was born in July of 2020. I never niched down, and I was just crazy enough to believe, like, why would I want to niche down? And I think that's now, even coming out of it, I just did a convocation. I think I did 3 convocations for school districts because I have the wisdom and I have the content for that they need to hear, but I can still also come back and do a business conference and speak on the millionaire mind. And so many people, right? And I'm not saying that you want to water down what you're speaking about. But the thing is this, and answer, I want to get your perspective on this because I ran a dealership and I understood business, I understood leadership, I understood sales. You can be an expert in more than just one category if you position yourself right, like Sean is saying.
Right. Yes and no. So yes, what you're saying is true. We're both podcasters and we're both speakers. Okay. Well, am I an expert in speaking? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm an expert in getting people booked. I get myself booked, right? So there it is. I sold a radio show. Anytime someone's like, well, what do you know about podcasts? I mean, like, I sold one. Like, oh, okay. Then they listen, you know? So yes, you could be an expert in podcasting or book publishing or, whatever, right? However, you can't enter into someone else's category. For example, Coke got into the energy drink business and got destroyed. So you have 5 Hour Energy, which is the energy shot category. Then you have Red Bull and Monster, which are energy drinks. And then Coke got into the energy drink and tried to have a Coke Energy and got destroyed. Coke is the category king of the soda industry, whatever, right? They run it. Pepsi will never overtake Coke, period. Pepsi is some of the dumbest marketers on the planet. Coke will never get beat out. They are the category king. By sales, by company, by category, they created and dominate the category. When you create your own market category and you become the category king, when you are crowned the category king, you earn 76% of the market valuation of that category. Everybody else who comes after you has to fight for the remaining 24% of that market category valuation.
And I will say that, talking about that, their commercials and their marketing, it's not even about Coke. They sell you the experience.
Correct.
They sell you the experience. And I think so many times people, in talking about their products and services, they don't talk about the experience of how your solution, right? When you're talking about the problem, how the experience is going to be. And they don't talk about that. They don't talk about how it's going to help them to really solve their problems and what's the experience going to be like.
100%. You're right.
And that's and I don't even, right? I don't drink a lot of soda anymore, but the first thing that comes to mind is, like, I think of the polar bear. I think of just some of the commercials of how they really
Christmas Santa trucks.
They capture your heart, right? They just capture your emotions and your feelings. And I think so many people in putting themselves out there, you can't. One thing that I remember from you is, you always say this, is death by PowerPoint. You don't want to be a death by speaker PowerPoint. Well, the same is true. You don't want to be a death by speaker reel maker on Instagram. You don't want to be a deaf, right? You don't want to just not have your heart in it. Whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, you really got to let your audience, whether it's through podcasting, radio, whether it's through the products, of whether you're a baker, they can feel your love in your pie. They got to feel that love. They got to feel the fact that you really care and you're not just putting a product out there. And I think that gives that additional value that we're talking about.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The experience has to be there. Absolutely. People don't go to theme parks to be bored. People don't go to SeaWorld, or they don't go to Disneyland or wherever else. Like, it's about the experience. You're buying the experience.
Yeah.
And that goes again into branding. So branding is all of your colors and your logos, and everything's got to be perfect. People get so over-rotated on that. And it's the reputation. It's the experience that you deliver. People want to go to Walmart because they know what Walmart stands for. People go to McDonald's because they know what McDonald's stands for. They know what you're going to get. When a new restaurant opens, it's like, oh man, like, I don't know. I look at their menu, like, I don't know if it's going to be good. Like, we'll just wait for the reviews. Movies do the same thing.
Yeah.
When movies come out, they're like, I'll wait till like Rotten Tomatoes tells me, or I'll wait till I hear people talk about it. Then people are like, oh my gosh, did you see that 3-hour long Avatar movie? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's already $1 billion movie. I know it's going to be amazing. And you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll go see it now. They did the same thing with Top Gun Maverick. They're like, oh, geez. Like some people were like, really, like I think about 90% is excited, but I think the other 10%, well, they were not excited. But then again, those 10% will probably get mad that you gave them a silver briefcase instead of a black briefcase with $1 million in it. I wanted my $1 million than a black briefcase. I mean, there's people like that out there. They're just always unhappy and always ungrateful. Those are the people that are like, well, I don't know. I'll wait till the movie reviews come out. I don't know. This is stupid. So, but there's actually science behind it. You want to hear the science?
Who wants to watch a dumb Top Gun TV again, another movie? Who cares about it?
Right.
That's what they say. I mean, that's what they say.
Yeah. Who cares? Another movie, whatever. But I mean, it was a big deal. But if you look at Top Gun's marketing, like 30 years after the original movie, like that's how they marketed it. It's like it was big. But do you want to hear the science behind that?
Yeah. What is it?
Okay, so there's the law of diffusion of innovation theory. And that innovation theory has 4 categories of humans. So the 4 categories of humans are your early adopters. And there's a great book called Crossing the Chasm. So the theory says you have your early adopters. These are the guys that say that spend like 3 days out in the cold or in line camping to buy the new iPhone. They're perfectly comfortable. Like, I have to be the first. I have to be the first. So those are your early adopters. Those are the people that are the leaders. Then you have your early majority. And when you cross 16 to 32% into that early majority, you now have a viable product. You now have a viable service. You now have a viable business. When 16 to 32% of the marketplace has gained your attention and says, okay, Daniel's the real deal. Here we go. I gotta book him to speak. Because think about it. When we both started out getting booked to speak, it was probably like maybe a gymnasium, or maybe it was like an online thing. Maybe it was a podcast. People don't really know who we are. And then those are the people that are like, yeah, I'll give you a shot. Those are the early majority, the early adopters. They got the early majority. Then you got people like, okay, Daniel's starting to gain steam. This is his good, he's got good branding. He's got a real good speech. He knows what he's talking about. We're going to start booking him a lot, right? When you get 16 to 32% of that market as a speaker, boom, hockey stick. Now you're getting booked everywhere. Now you're offering podcasts and book publishing and coaching and events, and like all this stuff starts unraveling because you got into the marketplace, and now the majority of the marketplace is starting to know who Daniel Gomez is. After you hit the early majority, then you hit the late majority. They're like, all right, everybody's doing it. I got to as well. And then you have your laggards. The only reason laggards don't have a rotary phone is because it's outdated. The only reason people don't have, the laggards don't have a VCR is because you can't buy VHS tapes. Those are the people that will not change no matter what.
What you're saying is so true, though, and I never thought about it the way you just described it. But yeah, I mean, I like your description, that scientific approach of what you just gave, because so many people want to start off and they want to be on top right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, aside from everything you just said, which is so true, they don't realize that they have to grow as an individual. They have to grow. And I think the one thing that most young business owners miss, entrepreneurs, solopreneur, whatever category you fall under within that preneur space, is that you don't realize how small your capacity is. Mm-hmm. What do I mean about that? I think so many times people want to get so big, but they don't have the capacity to handle the responsibility. And then they self-implode, they self-destruct. And then I've known many coaches and speakers that grew so fast that they couldn't handle they couldn't handle what was being demanded on them. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they turned into the victim and started blaming everybody else. No, you collapsed, you exploded from the inside, and you stopped doing the things because you just got overwhelmed and you didn't grow into it. I think about where I'm at now, Sean. When I met you, I'm like, and when I met you, I'm like, I want to go where I'm at today, 5 years later. Right. Bro, there's no way I could have handled what there's just no way. I mean,
I told you, like, one step at a time, do one thing and do one thing well. Then you can start offering all your other stuff. You know,
yeah,
you got the amazing book, Born to Fly, right? Took off.
yeah, right here. This is what me and you worked on and just kind of
Yeah.
had fun. You were born to fly.
Yep. Yep. So, you know, you had the Born to Fly book. It was coming out. I'm like, dude, you have to do one thing. And then another thing, like if you know, people talk about branding and how they mess it up, you know, and you and I went back and forth on this a lot. I was like, are you sure? Like Daniel Gomez Inspires, are you sure? Like, you sure you want to call it that? Like, why don't you call it Born to Fly Coaching? Because that was your book, Born to Fly. What Daniel Gomez Inspires show? Like, why not call it Born to Fly? Because that's the book. And then you can market the book on your show because the book is the name of your show, which is going to be the name of your business, which is the name of the event, which is the name. Like, that's how you keep the same congruency and the same category. And you're like, nope, I have a plan. And look at you, 5 years later, here we are. Daniel Gomez Inspires. You got DG Enterprises, kind of your umbrella, right? Got your Daniel Gomez Inspires show. And then when you're on stage, you're like, I'm Daniel Gomez Inspires. Like, this is what we do. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, you know, and it's working. So who
And
knows?
but the beautiful thing about it though, that there is a lot of truth what you're saying, because within that brand, the umbrella of DG Enterprises, right? Daniel Gomez Aspires, our new book, which what you're talking about is 100% right? The Makings of a Millionaire Mind book became the course, and now we have the boot camp, the Makings of a Millionaire Mind boot camp.
Yep.
So what Sean is saying, ladies and gentlemen, it wouldn't make sense to have the Makings of a Millionaire Mind book, and then you go name your boot camp Success Money Boot Camp, or which is
Yeah.
totally, but that's the mistake that many people make. They
Yep.
don't keep it congruent. So that's what he's saying. So think about this. And Sean's 100% correct. He goes, become a good speaker and everything else will follow. So I was determined to become a good speaker. That's when our book launched. You Were Born to Fly. And I just wrote that, tell you were born to fly. Just no matter where I went, I carried my book. And
Yep.
because I was grateful for what I had. But I want people to understand this, Sean, because you did a valid point. You hear this. It's misused. I mean, I've heard it at event after event. You hear you need multiple streams of income, and people misuse that. And then the problem with that I see when I'm coaching my clients is, well, I need to get multiple streams of income. I need 7 streams of income, 5. No, you don't. You need one. Like Sean said, focus on one. I focus on speaking. That's all I focus on. And people would come in and, man, you want to do multi-level marketing? No, I'm speaking. That's where my focus is. But when people start seeing that you're getting success, they want to throw all this other stuff at you. And that's the problem that most people do, is they take the bait and it doesn't even go with, it's not even in alignment with what they're doing. And they wonder why their business doesn't work. They wonder why they're struggling as a speaker. They wonder why they're struggling as a podcaster, or whatever you're doing, right? As a hairstylist, right? You can't be doing your hair salon and you can't be doing Amway at the same time. You can't give both of them 100%.
Right.
And you just can't, right? Or whatever multi-level, most people don't have the capacity to focus on 2 things. I'm just being honest. But
Right.
once you get your hair salon going and you get your business going, your clientele, well, then guess what? You can use that profitability that you have, your profits, and you can maybe fund something else. And then you got to, that's what we did. I never, like I said, my intention was never to be where I'm at today. Like, I didn't know what to expect. But right now, to be honest with you, speaking carried me for the first year and a half. Now it's like, I don't even depend on speaking. It's like, okay, it's a part of can I speak? Hell yeah. Will I take your 5,000 to 10,000 honorarium? Hell yeah, I'll take it, because I can deliver that value. But it's like, I'm not in that position to where I was before. Like, man, I got to speak, because that was the only engine of revenue that we had.
Right. Right. And more than that, when you do the one thing and you can make $100,000 from that one thing, then you have permission to do something else. But you got to do the one thing. You got to be known for that one. That's positioning. You have to be known for the one thing. Now, you can be a podcaster and a speaker because it's kind of the same thing. You still have a message. You're still getting, your point across, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm a speaker and a podcast. Like, that makes sense. I'm a speaker and an author. That makes sense. Usually one goes in front of the other or vice versa or whatever. But with the 7 streams of income, like that's just a huge myth. It's just so wrong. So if I counted up every single stream of income that I have, I'm well over 7. Because you got like, let's say the podcast launch, book launch, that's 2, speaking 3. Then I've got another business for a clothing line that I have. That's 4. 5 military retirement and VA. That's an income stream. 6 for the guides and products and stuff that I have, podcast marketing guide and speaker guides and stuff like that. Then I've got the coaching on how to launch a business or whatever that entails, as far as whether we're launching it or monetizing it or whatever. There's 7. And then 8 is, I got 1 after that. I can't remember what the heck it was because we shut it down. It took too much time, man. It was like this is crazy. We were doing like resilience training for like schools and some other stuff, but we kind of like wrapped it all into the speaking. But it was like not a corporate trainer, but it was like a small group resilience kind of like event or whatever that we were doing, just like locally, or people would pick us out and go, hey, go here, go here, go here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then our 9th one was from our books, like all the books behind me and all the, like those are from our books. Right. So I was like, this is like a lot. And not one is making 100,000, like all of them together are. But if I focused on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, it'd be fine. Yes. It would be, it'd be fine. So no, you don't have to have 7 income streams. That's only good if you're in the real estate business where I have 7 rental properties. Like that would be fine. That's the 7 streams, right? But you could be a speaker that gets booked to speak. Like I'm booked to speak 20, 25 times a year. And my speaker fee is $5,500 mostly. Locally, I'll do something for like $3,000 or $4,000 or something like that. But mostly it's between $5,500 and $7,500. So that's 1. If I did that 20 times at 5,000, that's $100,000. That's like less than 2 times a month.
Yeah.
Like, right. And then the podcast gets monetized in certain ways. And then you have your coaching and then you also, right. Like that's a lot of stuff going on. But if I only focused on speaking and then I only focused on monetizing my podcast and then I did like maybe one other thing, I'd probably be at like 2 to 250. You know what I'm saying?
Easy.
Like if you're not comfortable at 200 to 250,000 a year, like I heard Grant Cardone, and there's a big thing on the news, right? Well, Grant Cardone says he'd be ashamed if he wasn't making like $400,000 or something. Like, well, good for him. He's got his private jets and he's got his Lambos, and I mean that's cool for people. People are like, well, I'd rather cry in my Ferrari, than be happy in my Toyota. Like you're an idiot. That is the dumbest thing ever. You want to cry in your, why do you want to cry at all? How about you just be happy doing whatever you're doing? Like be happy. Like last year we pulled in around 130,000. Like that was fine for us, plus, and then you add in the military retirement and everything. I mean,
yeah, no, for sure.
Like we're fine. I don't have to worry about money. Like that's me happy. I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry where my next client comes from. I don't have to worry where my next paycheck's coming from. Like it's like guaranteed because I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think I think what you just said is think about this, what Sean's saying, right? In reference to what you said about Grant Cardone, everybody has their different levels of comfort. I will say that God does challenge us to go out there and do more, be more, to have more, to help more. And I think that that's the part that people miss, right? I think when I go out there and I teach on the Millionaire Mind, it's really to help people understand that they can have a better lifestyle, right? They can have a better legacy for their children. And people have asked me that exact point. Daniel, well, I don't want to be a millionaire. Great. But wouldn't it be awesome if you just hit $250,000 in revenue?
Right.
Wouldn't that help your family?
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well, good.
Exactly.
Make that your goal. Maybe you don't have the desire that I have, but I can promise you what you're doing, you're not even tapping into what you got. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that people miss that. I think for me, the most valuable, I was just a guest on a podcast this past couple of weeks, and one thing they go, well, what are you most proud of in 2022, Daniel? I said, you really want to know? I was like, yeah. I go, my daughter graduated with her master's. My son graduated with his bachelor's in the same year. I go, and my relationship with my kids has never been better. I said, that
Awesome.
is success.
Yep.
I said, but it happened because I had to work on me.
Mm-hmm.
And right, the byproduct of Daniel dealing with the real shit that he had to deal with, the deep insecurities, the shame, the guilt, whatever it was that God was dealing with me on, because I was doing it for the right reasons to become a better father, a better husband. How is your business not going to grow if you're right? Because it makes you a better overall human being, and I think that that's what people miss is that you just become a better all human being. So to your
Yep.
point, right? It doesn't. I'm laughing because I'm thinking, right? You can be in your Ferrari crying, but if you're the shittiest person, your life's still going to be shitty.
I know, right? Right? Like if
I
you don't
I
grow
I,
and
I
change.
yeah. Well, I heard ET say this, right? Is ET said, I'm impressed that you're a $7 million business owner. I'm impressed. But the question I want to ask you that's going to impress me even more: Are you a seven? Are you a seven-figure dad? Right?
Yeah.
You have a seven-figure business. Great. That impresses me a little bit. Not even really. But what I want to know, what's going to really impress me: Are you a seven-figure mom?
Yep.
Are you a seven-figure dad?
Yep.
Are you a seven-figure husband?
Yep.
And that's to your point, because at the end of the day, what good does it do you? I mean, the reason I came into this whole entrepreneurship journey was because my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I can tell you, your money in your bank account is not going to save your wife when she's diagnosed with breast cancer, and I can say that
Right.
from experience.
Yep. Nailed it.
Man, I don't even want to end, man. It's hard to believe we've already been here for an hour, bro. Tell me this, what's the last word of wisdom you want to leave the audience, Sean, before we wrap up our episode today, brother, our show?
Well, in the past couple months, I became the vice president of a nonprofit called One Life Fully Lived. And so we're doing some amazing work with that within the nonprofit. And so our motto is just one life fully lived. How are you going to play full out in 2023? That's the question. How will you play full out? And so basically the words of wisdom that I want to leave you with is do something legendary. If it ain't legendary, then don't do it. Ask yourself, is this the most legendary work that I'll produce? When you and I are on the show, I keep thinking like, what is the most legendary thing that I could say? What is the most legendary advice? Because that's the standard of excellence. We're not going to do a mediocre show and hope for the best, but people do that. You hear it all the time on social media, like just do it. Just don't care about the lighting, and you don't care about what the camera looks like, and you don't care about what you say. Just do it. Just post 1,000,000 times a day, all over every social media platform. Just 11 times you have to post social media. Like you have to get your message out there. Yeah, I get that. But if your message sucks, like no one's gonna listen.
Yes.
And everything you do something legendary. You want to spend time with your
Baby.
kids? Do something legendary with your kids. You want to spend time with your spouse? Do something legendary with them. Create that experience, because that is what people are going to remember. And as speakers, people may not always remember what we say, but they'll always remember how we make them feel.
Man, I love you, bro. I love you. What a show with Sean Douglas. Only guest to come back, second time guest. Love you, brother. I'm glad you came back. And this is Daniel Gomez Inspires. That's a wrap for this week's episode. If you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, go to danielgomezglobal.com. That's danielgomezglobal.com and fill out our entrepreneur assessment there. We want to hear from you. We want to help you. And go out to Amazon, go out to our website, actually, themakingsofaMillionaireMind.com. Get our book, themakingsofaMillionaireMind.com. Get our book, get our course. It's going to solve your financial problems. It's going to help you realize that you were born for more. So stop living paycheck to paycheck. Stop tolerating the things that you don't like. Help us. Let us help you solve your problems. And last but not least, we want to see you out here in San Antonio, March 17th and 18th at the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy. where we're going to make you and help you become that paid speaker that you were born to be. Until next week with another amazing guest. Thank you once again, Sean Douglas. Woo! My brother, appreciate you. We'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen.
This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.